I might look a little crazy, but I just hit the end. So this is my third novel, and I really didn't anticipate the epilogue to be as long as it was, nor was it exactly how I pictured it to happen either. Like, I initially had planned that it was like, oh, we'll just like check in with each character and what they're up to. And then in reality, it became its own scene and we just kept flipping point of view through it. And honestly, I really loved that. I thought it was really fun to do and I was so excited to write it. And I like just spent hours doing it. I also ended up making it, instead of just one chapter, it's now 4, but they are relatively short. I did not keep up my rule because it definitely surpassed 1,000 words if you kept them separate. It didn't, but together it did. I just wanted to keep changing point of view. Honestly, I think I might end up just keeping them separate and doing what a lot of books tend to do. Well, I don't know if it's a lot, but having read the Lunar Chronicles, she has each book where it's like book 1, book 2, book 3, which is like act 1, act 2, act 3. And so I don't know if I'm gonna do that, but definitely have a page of like epilogue and then have different chapters within that. There's gonna be at least 4 because we have 28, 29, 30, 31, 30, oh wait, I know how to do math. 5 chapters, it's fine. And when I was trying to continue and I was like, well, maybe I just need to check in with like each character, or at least each set of characters, I was like, absolutely no. Like, I got to chapter 33 and I could see the wheels just spinning. We were going nowhere. You're just paddling, absolutely making no progress. And it's like, you know, I don't think I need to do that, actually. And so I looked at the previous chapter and I'm like, I mean, it's like, it's a good ending. It's a good spot to end it, where you're left wondering what the future holds, but also you're kind of gonna know. And I also realized at that point, I really am gonna have so much time, because now we're entering into the future me problems, which is now going to be current me problems, which is revisions. Because after I finished, and I was like, this has to be the end. And like, to give context, I spent like half a day working on the epilogue. There was supposed to be 1 chapter that turned into more, and I just was sitting here afterwards like, I don't know, because I was debating it, and I'm like, because initially I had planned that the epilogue was a jump in time, and a lot of like the little details that they have to figure out in the aftermath. A lot of authors don't always write about that. You either kind of conclude briefly at the end of the big event, or you'll jump ahead. Not a lot of time is spent in the nitty-gritty random details of the day-to-day. But I've realized that from where they're at in chapter 27 to where they're gonna be in the epilogue is very far away. And I'm like, I need to either write in chapters that fill that gap, which is a lot. Honestly, it could be its own book at that point, because it's so much just character stuff, not big plot stuff. And I'm like, I don't know that I want to do that. I like that jump. I feel like it's good. I don't know. That's one of the things that is pinned on the figure out later. But also, I couldn't sleep because I just kept thinking about all of the stuff that I need to do. And is this story good enough to actually keep and work on, which I think so. I know there's a lot that I want to fix, but I want to fix it. I don't want to start over, which is huge, because book 2 I just started over. I never felt like it was salvageable. I felt like the entire plot, the premise was just off. And so when I finally got one that was like semi-salvageable, I just kept it. And this one I'm like, no, I like it. I just need to add to it, which is weird, because initially when I sat down to write book 3, I thought 27 chapters was like reaching to have content. And now I'm looking at the revisions and I'm like, I might push 50 chapters. Like, it's not like a huge goal to get there, but like, it's a real possibility that it might actually be close to 50 chapters. Keeping in mind, book 1 had 9, book 2 had 13. So like, to go from that amount clear up to 50, keeping in mind my minimum for those chapters is going to be at least 1,000 words for draft 1, right? Every time I draft the first chapter of each one, it's a minimum of about 1,000 words, excluding the end. but that's a different ballpark because realistically, those will be about 1,000 words easily. Quite a few of them were 700 to 800 words. There was one or two that was like 300 to 500 words each, but even still, like they're the epilogue, but I feel like I'm still gonna bump those up too. Probably not as much, because realistically, when I go to actually have my full chapters, I plan to have them at least 3,000 words each. I feel like that's a pretty good goal. Now, if they were already big, I usually bump it up about 2,000 words-ish. So it'll be more like 5,000. And the one might get broken into two because it's already almost 4,000 words, and that's pre-edited, so I might break that up. I haven't decided, or I might just have one really long chapter. That's okay, because the rest are not going to be that long. Because I am starting to appreciate shorter chapters in some ways as a reader, because then you feel like you accomplish more than just like, oh my god, it never ends. Like, it's nice to have chapter breaks kind of frequently. So I'm like, okay, but even if that like holds, like that's, if it's at least, let's say we're gonna get 50 chapters, each one's 3,000 words, that's a lot. But the big thing that I was focusing on is that when we get to the final end, the final battle that we've been building up to, I still have to drag behind the initial promise from book one that I started that premise literally so long ago. Like at least I think like 14 years-ish. Like I was 12 to 13 when I came up with the basic premise of the story. And I've been working on it ever since. But needless to say, when I was writing a book in high school, and then I went to college to get a creative writing degree, and then I went off and actually had life experience, and then now like having a matured brain, because honestly, like, it's true, you turn 25, your brain just like kind of does this little whoop, and suddenly you're like, oh, that's why teenagers aren't allowed to do stuff. Because wow, growing up is an interesting process. But like going through all of that and like learning about how stories are written and analyzing a lot of writing, even if it's not fiction, but just different ways of analyzing writing in general and storytelling for so long, it's like, I do not like my original premise. I do not like where the story was going. And so I've kind of kept the vaguest of outlines still, but I've changed the big bad. Like, the baddies of the group are completely different. And I realized I need to really explain that so much more. And so that's part of going to be the revisions, is that I need to now bridge that gap. That is a plot hole that, again, I refuse to go back and change my previous books. I feel like it's just an example of where my writing was at that point in life. And of course they're gonna get better, obviously. The more you do it, the better you're gonna get. And so I don't feel like it's really helpful to sit there and keep working the same thing. You just gotta keep moving on. And so I now just have to be like, okay, we need to bridge the gap. And so I also decided that I needed to have the new baddies actually have a purpose. We need to know who they are. Because I was talking a little bit to my husband about it. Granted, he doesn't care about the story. He actually really does not have any interest in this entire concept whatsoever. He doesn't like it. And so he's like, I love you, but no. Like, that's a you thing. Future books maybe, but not this one. It's not my thing. But I had to ask him, because I was like, I can't sleep. I need you to tell me. And I was like, so I've told you the basic premise kind of where I'm going with this book and the series. And the problem is, and he agreed, is that when we get to the big baddie, it's a quick battle and we don't really care. And so I need to make the battle way more prolonged, which is more chapters. But also I feel like it kills two birds with one stone to loop the original plan and how I've decided it's changed because of course I wanted to change it over so many years. Well, I guess it will be 15 years because if I started it around 12 and I'm gonna be 27 this year, that's a big gap to try and maintain one storyline with no changes. And so I have to have chapters where we bring that original concept, show how it's not how I initially set it up, change it now to fit the new ending. And then also, I feel like the ending needs to be expanded a lot. And so I have a lot of chapters that I need to add in. Plus, I've realized I have subplots I need to add in. I want to add more character interactions and to make you care about the main people that you're going to be following along with for so long. And so, again, I don't think it's that unrealistic at this point to think it's going to be 50 chapters, but I'm also counting it as a revision process because I have the baseline now that I'm now just like weaving in stuff. But because I have so much in the revision process to happen, I don't know that my initial plan for publication is even remotely realistic. Because again, I want to do this series good, and I want to have the best possible ending to the series that I've worked on for so long. And so I have a lot to add. Like, I have so many like subplots, which I used to not know how to really write, and now I'm like, well, if I switch POV, like, boom, there's our subplot that we're working on. Because again, I have all of these characters, and to me, they're all the main character. There is no main character. I love them all equally. All of them have a purpose. There was a point where I was debating one character, and I really had to contemplate, like, do I just cut you from the story? And then I decided, no, I need to make you actually matter to the story. So that means I need to add in things for that character to have a purpose. And like, I just have so much that I need to do, and the revision process is going to take a while. Moral of the story. I feel like if I'm not even remotely close to publication by like mid to late spring, like at the very least doing like the final read-throughs and just like trying to catch like, well, that sentence makes absolutely no sense. And like how to fix like little things like that, like the line edits, I think is what it's called. If I'm not towards that point by like probably April, because keep in mind, you're seeing this way later than when I'm recording this. Right now we are still in February. It is February 24th. So I think you're seeing this sometime like mid-March, because I like to get ahead. And so that way it gives me a cushion of time. I like to be way ahead. So anyways, moral of the story is that I have a lot that I need to work on. But if I'm not even close to hitting that point, I'm starting to wonder if I'm gonna do a new project while in the midst of revisions, simply because I do want to publish a few books this year. This one in particular needs to publish this year. That's just a goal that I've set that I don't want to give up. And I also want to publish more books. So it's one of those where it's like, some authors can juggle multiple projects. I just don't know that I can do that quite yet. I think I just need to handle the fact that I can acknowledge I need to do a lot of revisions, and it might be close to 50 chapters now. And I don't know that I'm going to outline completely, but again, I might start to analyze like where I want to add some chapters in, and like what characters I want to add some more details with. So anyways, that is where we are at for ending draft 1. This was a long journey. It wasn't nearly as long as the first book, nor the second book, but it's also like, it's a different journey when you do it full time, because you're like, I have so much to do, and now I have the time to do it, and I don't want to work on anything else. I just want to get this book done, and I just feel like writing and working on it and talking about it, and it's like, all right, I have other responsibilities I need to do too. So anyways, that's where we're at. I finally hit the end of draft 1. I'm very excited. This is the end of this style of video. We're gonna have a little bit more of a vlog style for the revisions and stuff going forward, except book reviews. Book reviews will still be kind of here. So anyways, I would love to hear how you felt when you hit the end of your novel. If you are similar, where you're like, I have so much revision work, or if you were happy, or if you were like me with my last book where it was like, oh my god, and you had to do it a few times till you got the right draft. I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. Make sure to like and subscribe. I post every other day, and until next time, thank you so much for watching and coming along for writing draft 1, and I hope you'll be here when we go through the revisions. Until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all soon.